What's up guys, Cass here from Giveaway Studios, and today I'm going to show you how to turn this pile of materials right here into this awesome Killmonger spear from the new Black Panther movie. Alright, let's get it. Alright guys, so grab the PVC piece that comes with your kit, and first thing you're going to want to do is locate this area here. Let me focus. That has these notches here, and what you're going to do is grab yourself some pliers and just rip those right off. All right, shouldn't be too hard. They're pre-cut in there for you, so you don't have to do any guesswork. We're gonna grab our foam pieces for the actual spearhead. Make sure they line up, right? So right side facing left side. They are symmetrical, so it doesn't really matter. And now what you want to do is put the wooden spine down the middle, making sure that it's flush on either side of this opening here, because you don't want the wood showing too much. And so you want to give yourself enough room that you have about like 2.5 inches of your spine stick coming out. That's going to be able to fit inside of here. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and glue the pieces together and catch you guys at the next step. Alright, so this is what it looks like after we've put everything together. Notice that I've took great care to make sure that everything is flush as I was putting it all together, which is not super difficult. Just kind of be super careful as you're going down the length of the spearhead. You want to start at the bottom and just kind of work your way, making sure that these edges in here and in here just kind of like line up. Force the foam over till you've made it all the way to the tip. All right, so at this point all we got to do is heat seal this, and then we're going to Dremel the edges so that we have an actual sharp edge or something that looks like bladed, and then we're going to move on to the next step. All right. And so now I'm going to bevel the edges of this. I'm going to use my grinder here, but you can also do this with a Dremel. Just kind of like bevel your edges so you can get a nice bladed edge. All right. So once you've gotten back from your Dremel, you should have a nice edge on the side of your spear. And you can also taper the point a little bit if you want it to be a little bit more pointy. All right, at this point, we're ready for paint. All right, so first we're gonna coat our piece with 2 or 3 coats of Plasti Dip. All right, once this piece is dried, we can hit it with some Rust-Oleum hammered paint to give it a little bit of texture and start working on the actual base coat. All right, so while we wait for our paint to dry, go ahead and grab your PVC pipe and grab some sandpaper, and you're gonna sand this down nice and smooth. Get rid of any markings that may be on here and just kind of rough up the whole thing. So you're gonna go from feeling like smooth to like a rough surface. So you want that rough surface on the entire piece. So I'm gonna go ahead and add some texture to my PVC, and then I'm going to do a wash on it with brown, and hopefully that'll make it look like wood. Now you guys can skip this step entirely and just paint your pipe brown and then do your wraps and all that stuff, but you know, I like to take it up a notch. So I have a couple of tools here that I'm going to be using. I have a wire brush I'm going to use to put some scrapes and some lines, and then you can do this with an X-Acto here. This is like a leather tool that's usually used to like cut the sides. So I'm just going to put some texture in here, and you can see that these things are lifting, so I'm actually taking out some of the PVC itself. So I'm going to try to do kind of like a wood texture throughout the whole thing, and then catch you guys at the next step. Alright, now that I've finished adding my texture, I'm going to try and focus in on you. I don't know if you guys can tell, but kind of have this kind of wood grain thing going on throughout. I'm going to go ahead and put some leather dye on this. Now, if you don't have leather dye, you can still do this technique. Just paint this brown and then do a black or a darker wash and let it seep into the creaks of all the marks that you just made on it. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and go with that process real quick, and then we'll go grab our spear in the paint room. And once you're done with that step, you should have something that looks like a wooden dowel to an extent, right? Depending on how deep your gouges went, how much you scratched it up, it'll look more and more realistic the more time you spend on it. All right, moving on to the next step. Okay, so we can do some weathering on our spear tip. So what you're gonna do is grab some black paint, dilute it with some water. Not too watery. You kind of want it the consistency of, I don't know, what consistency would you want this of? So go ahead and spread that on the whole thing. And then you're gonna let it dry for about a minute or so. And then you're going to wipe it off lightly. And then you'll repeat the process until you start seeing like this metal-like look to your piece, all right? So I'm gonna fast forward through this step and catch you guys towards the tail end. All right, guys, so as you can tell, I was able to get a nice bit of like rough metal texture to this, and that's very much due to the type of paint that we use with the hammered steel look. The paint was able to just kind of seep into the little creases that it leaves behind, the little craters. All right, so now that we have that, we're gonna go ahead and grab some Rub and Buff to kind of do some highlight on our edges. Now, you don't necessarily need 100% to use Rub and Buff. You can also do the highlights with like a lighter silver paint on your edges, or whatever else you feel like doing, really. I like the Rub and Buff. I had it on hand, so this is what I'm doing for the purposes of the tutorial. And I'll have links in the description if you guys want to buy any other stuff that I used throughout the tutorial. So I'm literally just gonna go around on the edges that we beveled, kind of bring some highlight to that, make it show that it's a sharp edge as opposed to the rest of the piece, and just some nicks and bruises here and there. So get creative with it. There's no really one way to do this properly. Everyone's weathering is gonna come out slightly different. So I'm gonna go ahead and fast forward through this process and catch you guys towards the tail end. All right, now that we've done some weathering to our piece, we're looking a little bit more realistic. I've got some scuff marks, some highlights, all that good stuff. So you also have received 2 of these little circular pieces with your kit. What you're gonna do is split those in half, or as half as you can split them. Okay, grab a knife, do the thing. And then with your contact cement or hot glue even, you can do this. But I always recommend contact cement just because contact cement is the best. I'm gonna spread this on the remainder of the spine, the wooden spine that we have here. And we're going to glue these little bits on either side of each other, at the top and at the bottom. So I'm gonna go ahead and fast forward through this process and catch you guys at the tail end. All right, now that we've attached our 2 pieces, this is how they go together, right, on either side of each other. And what this is going to allow us to do is have a nice tight fit that slides into our tube and holds our spear in place. I'm gonna slide that down, and you're gonna slide this all the way down until the spear rests on the edges here, all right? And this connection here is gonna get hidden by your twine when you start doing all of your wrappings, all right? So we're gonna go ahead and move on to that step. Right. So you also receive some twine and a little bit of leather rope, 2 different types of colors. So what you guys wanna do is literally just start embellishing this. He has twine that wraps here, twine that wraps here. There's kind of like an X thing that goes here. You're gonna wanna do a lot of twine here to kind of hide the connection between the blade and the stick, and then a couple passes here and there. You can definitely freestyle this. I'm gonna go ahead and fast forward through the process and give you guys like a good glance of what my general kind of like layout of the strings is. That way you guys can do the same if you'd like to, or just kind of do your own thing. All right, so I'll catch you guys at the next step. And after about, I don't know, 40 minutes of just rapping randomly, this is what I've come up with. All right. Again, if this doesn't suit your needs, you can definitely look up images of the screen accurate version and make your lines according to that. So now what I'm going to do is just grab a brush with a little bit of black on it and very lightly just go over these clean and fresh and new looking ropes to kind of weather them down a little bit. You can also do this with some brown. You don't have to necessarily do it with black. You're just trying to make the jute twine and the leather just look a little bit more muddy and dirty to kind of match with the overall weathering that we did earlier. Okay. So, pop. And I'm going to go ahead and fast forward through this process and catch you guys at the next step. All right, that concludes our tutorial, guys. If you guys made it to this point, then you probably have a Killmonger spear that you're quite proud of right now. So I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. Hope it was useful. If you purchased the kit from my store, thank you for the support. I appreciate it, and I hope you were able to put this together with no issues whatsoever. And yeah, man, I like this. This came out nice. So if you guys have any comments, questions, concerns, maybe you want to see me do something else next as a tutorial, do feel free to leave them in the description. I try to read those as often as possible. And I'll catch you guys on the next one. This was Cass from Giveaway Studios. Cheers.